Mythological stories have been around for many years. Each myth is an underlining representation of a lesson or story that could relate to the reader. Popular topics that myths contain are stories of love between two people. Lessons that demonstrate love depict its true meaning. Complete and total trust between two people is an essential element in a relationship. In stories, the characters often experience pain and suffering to protect or help the ones they love. Characters that are truly in love are evident because they aren't drawn to each other for their outward appearances, but rather their personality and actions. These attributes are noticeable in many myths, including Cupid and Psyche, Ceyx and Alcyone, and Baucis and Philemon. The entire myth of Cupid and Psyche is based on Psyche's connection to Cupid. Psyche's father is eager to marry her off to anyone who will have her. She's sent off to a rocky hill to meet her husband, who was described to her as a fearful winged serpent. She demonstrates her trust in him as she agrees to live with him in his home. Psyche goes about her days without ever seeing her husband's face, but knowing that he's there for her. Unfortunately, their trust is short-lived when Psyche gives into the temptation of glancing at him while he sleeps. When Cupid wakes up, he immediately leaves her, saying that love cannot live where there is no trust. This causes Psyche to become overwhelmed with pain and sadness in her heart. Psyche is later possessed by a deadly languor, and despite having left her, Cupid returns to save her from danger. Their love isn't based off of outward appearances, because Psyche loved Cupid without ever seeing him. She didn't care what he looked like because he was sweet and kind to her. After Cupid saved her, he had Jupiter marry them because even though she damaged his trust, he still loved her and missed her.
The myth of Ceyx and Alcyone involves two lovers who both trust each other. Ceyx has to travel across seas to consult the oracle and will be gone for a while. Hearing this news made Alcyone get upset, but she understood that Ceyx had to go. She trusted him to go and to come back. Alcyone's trust in Ceyx is what helped her to become more understanding and is what let her agree upon Ceyx's travel. As the story continues, we see major parts which included pain and suffering. Later in the story, we find out that Ceyx's ship got wrecked and killed Ceyx. The myth of Baucis and Philemon starts with the gods Jupiter and Mercury. Jupiter and Mercury transformed themselves into two elderly homeless villagers. After they transformed themselves, the gods went to a small village. They knocked on the doors throughout the village to see who would take them in and care for them. The only couple who takes them in is a married couple, Baucis and Philemon. Since the couple shows the gods' hospitality, the gods grant Baucis and Philemon one wish. Baucis and Philemon choose to never spend a day without each other. Baucis and Philemon trust each other to make their wish. They both love each other so much that they use their only wish to forever be together. Even though the couple is poor, they love each other so much. They don't let their financial status prevent their love. The couple turns into a tree so they are never apart. Myths that are told through time often share similar qualities. The myth of Ceyx and Alcyone, Cupid and Psyche, and Baucis and Philemon portray a similar message about love. These lessons demonstrate the true meaning of love. Trust between two people is necessary to maintain a relationship. However, with love comes pain and suffering to protect the other. Another essential characteristic in true love is not lust but being drawn to one another for their personalities. Cupid and Psyche and Ceyx and Alcyone portray the message of pain and suffering for a loved one.
Tragic love stories are the most common topics that authors write about because people find them the most interesting. Cupid and Psyche, Ceyx and Alcyone, and Baucis and Philemon are all written to intrigue and entertain people. People use tales of different gods as a compass on trust in their own relationships. A person who endures hardships and suffering for the benefit of someone else demonstrates their care and genuine concern for them. The gods in the myth love each other for who they are, as opposed to their outward appearances. Despite them being mythological gods, they still represent similar situations that people encounter every day and present to the reader what they could have had but didn't.